Hey brothers, this is Father Mark just with a message from my heart to you, a message for pastors, introducing you to a great resource, a book entitled Divine Renovation. It's written by Father James Mallon, who's a priest of the Archdiocese of Halifax in Canada. And the insights that he shares with us in the book Divine Renovation are just an invaluable resource. I cannot encourage you enough to get the book, to read the book, and then to share the book with your parish. I'm going to walk you through a few things about the book, how to get it, how to use it, and the impact that it can make on your parish. Let's jump right in together. Why should you get the book? Why are we strongly and so strongly recommending that every parish use this book and use it as soon as you possibly can? Number one, it's going to get the parish on board with what we're doing with strategic planning. As many of you have landed the plane, finished the process with your goals for your own strategic plan in your parish, now we kind of turn the corner and how can you get the parish on board? Of course, we all realize that most of the parishioners may have heard a little bit about the 9 and the 5 or different things of strategic planning, but by and large across the diocese, most parishioners do not understand the word disciple, don't understand what we're doing in strategic planning, or are not going to be able to make a connection with the goals that you came up with and how it impacts their life. We know this, and we have intentionally not tried to get everybody on board until it was time. Well, now is the time. The time is now for us to together get our parishioners on board with the mission of making disciples, what the word disciple means, and what that means in our life. This book is going to be essential in helping you get the parish on board with you. Number two, it's going to present the mission in such a way that everyone hears it the same way. In other words, not everyone hears the words that we use from the pulpit in the same way. The book's going to put it in black and white, literally for them. They're going to be able to see it presented in a very logical and storytelling way that's going to be very relevant to them. They're going to hear it the same way. It's going to allow them to digest the vision on their own pace. That's really important, right? So we've been in these waters at all of our convocations. We've been talking about strategic planning in a variety of ways and for a long time. It's important for us to know that they have not been at our convocations. They don't swim in the water that we swim in. The book will allow them to digest the language and the need in their own pace. They can read it as fast as they want to read it and digest it at their pace. Let me walk you through what the book looks like, right? The table of contents, so that we get familiar with what's happening. There's an introduction that's a great story about a house of cards and typical things that you and I are going to laugh about. I think what I like about the book so much is that it's written by a pastor for everybody, but every pastor is going to recognize some of the things he says. And you're going to say, I've always wanted to say that, but I never thought I could. Well, he's going to say it in a really comical way. Introduction's beautiful. The first chapter, he's going to talk about the fact that we have forgotten who we are. And he lays out the need for us to remember our identity in a way that parishioners can really appreciate, but kind of sets a foundation for the book. Chapter 2, he's going to walk us from Vatican II through Pope Francis, talking about not only some of the major documents, but highlighting what is it that John Paul II said, what is it that Pope Benedict said, what is it that Francis is saying, and why do we need to pay attention to that? So he kind of summarizes things very beautifully. In chapter 3, he's going to talk about the difference between being a maintenance church and a mission church. And you may have used that language before, but he puts it in such a way that it really elicits the desire in the reader to be a part of a church like that church that's on mission, but at the same time very reverently kind of naming for a lot of us what is existing in our parishes now. So chapter 3 is really important. Chapter 4, he talks about just the need for us to refocus and then maybe stop doing some of the things that we need to do and focus on the things that we need to do. He's going to say that so that you don't have to, right? The beauty of him as an author, he's just kind of putting it out there, and sometimes the truth which needs to be told can sometimes be easier heard by another voice rather than our own voice. Then he talks about chapter 5. It's a big chapter here. He talks about what's it going to take for us to change the culture in our parishes. Now, we've talked a lot about that at our convocations, but if you don't feel as confident in sharing all of that with your parishioners, Trust me, he's going to do that very beautifully in chapter 5. And that's really the gem of the book, right? He's saying things for you if you don't feel confident in knowing how to say all of this yourself. Then he's going to talk about opportunities we have, the importance of leadership to wrap up the book. But the money in the book is really the fact that another brother priest is saying things to our parishioners that sometimes we haven't had time to say, or that we don't feel as confident in saying ourselves. I cannot invite you enough to get the book. How are we going to use the book? Well, the first is you want to read it yourself, right? We can't talk about things that we don't have the knowledge of ourselves. So you want to read the book yourself. Take your time with it. Go at your own pace. If you have any questions personally as a brother priest, give me a call. I'd love to talk to you personally about the book if you have any questions. What I would then do is then share it with your staff. Get a copy for them. We have been recently given a grant from a donor who believes in this, and so we can help you purchase a book for every person on your staff. If you have any questions about that, you can call Trudy at the Office of Parish Support, and Trudy is going to walk you through how you can get a copy of this book in the hands of every one of your staff persons as a free gift from us to you. Read it with your staff. Read it chapter by chapter. You might do a chapter every other week and just kind of unpack it with them, ask them what they thought about it, things like that. You may consider asking your ministry heads to read it, like your Grand Night at the Knights of Columbus, the Ladies Altar Society, the person who's in charge of adult formation in your parish, your DRE. Get your major leaders in the parish or your essential volunteers to read the book. And again, you might invite them to join you a couple nights in the parish to kind of listen to what they thought about the book or questions that they have. But if you get them on board with you, that's going to be a real plus, right? And then finally, you can just ask the entire congregation to read the book. And yes, we did put that in there. It would be great if your entire congregation could get a book. And I know that you might think that that's a daunting task, and it is, but we're going to give you some tips on how to do that with them later on. And then finally, you can unpack it chapter by chapter. We're talking about how to use a book, and we've got those PDFs that are going to be uploaded to the website. The first two are already up there, and the remaining ones will be uploaded soon. You can just download those PDFs. You can put them in the bulletin. You can walk people through it chapter by chapter, but we can help you with those resources to help the general congregation digest the book one chapter at a time. To get the book, you can call Donald at God's Precious Words and Gifts, 449-0618. Again, 449-0618. You can get the book in a number of ways, but what he's going to do for you is going to give you a great price at $17 a piece. He can give you as many books as you need, and the ones that you can't sell, you just get back to him and he can return them for you. He's been really, really helpful in the process. There are other ways, other websites you can go to, but just to make it easy on you, just call Donald and he's going to make it there for you. He's one of us in our own diocese. He's willing to help us out, and I think it's the easiest way as a pastor to make this whole thing happen. Tips on how you can get it in their hands. I think we're all asking, all right, well, how am I going to get my congregation to read this book? Okay, let's walk it through. Number one, read the book yourself. Again, as I said that with you earlier, you have to own this, right? Your parishioners are going to follow you more than a concept. And I just want to remind you of that. You're their pastor, right? God has put you there. And I want you to believe in that. All right? God has put you in this place for a reason. They love you. They're going to follow you if you speak with conviction, right? So speak from your heart. What is it that's stirred in your heart? Why do you think they ought to read the book? If you're convicted in this, then they're going to follow you. Number three, sell them on your passion, right? Even if you can't explain everything in the book, if they can see that you believe in this, they're more than likely going to follow you, because that's the beauty of the people in our diocese. They will follow you more than a pitch, right? So even if you're crafting what you're going to say, you don't need words from us or our office. What they're going to do is they're going to follow your conviction on what the book meant to you. Let me say this. Many of your parishioners can afford $17. That equates to dinner. And what I said to the people at Christ Redeemer is, this book is going to change your life, dinner may not. And I did ask them very, very directly to sacrifice something to make an investment in the future. And I would use that language. They can't afford $17. I know you're looking at me saying, hey, I got my people on fixed income. I was shocked with the number of people who made a sacrifice. And people can afford $17, trust me. And you're going to ask them to make the investment. You're not selling a book. You're asking them to invest in the parish. You're asking them to invest in their spiritual life. I also said this, and I encourage you to say this. Some of them may be able to buy a book for someone who can't afford the book, right? And so I was shocked with the number of people who said, here's 20 bucks, keep the extra 3 for somebody who needs the book. Can't tell you how many people said, I'm going to buy 2, but I only want 1. Give this a book to someone who can't afford it. And if you ask people to be generous, I think you'll be surprised with how many people will be generous if you believe in what we're doing. And then, of course, you may ask yourself if you can sponsor a few books for people. I made a financial investment myself personally because I just believed in this. You may or may not be able to do that yourself, but your parish may be able to sponsor a couple people for a book. I will say this, that this is an unparalleled opportunity. I cannot imagine how our parishes are going to get on board with what we're trying to do unless they understand why we're going the way we are. This book is better than anything out there that's going to help your parishioners kind of follow us with where we're going. I cannot overestimate the opportunity that's in front of us when you are reading and using Divine Renovation. Get it yourself now. You might read it yourself during Lent. You might work with your staff during the summer. You might have the whole parish read it during the fall. Go at your own pace. Don't feel a rush that you have to do it all now. But we do have to start to do something to help our parishioners, and we're not going to get an opportunity like Divine Renovation again. If you have any questions, give me a call on my cell phone, send me a text or an email, and until we see each other again, God bless.